Amazing Stories.
Right.
It's also another Apple.
Before we get into Amazing Stories, to finish off the show that I was talking about, which was similar, was like Night Gallery.
Night Gallery. Okay.
Yeah, and
right.
I only
that was
saw
also
it a few
Rod
times.
Sterling.
Rod
right?
Sterling, right? But it came on so late at night. My parents didn't allow me to watch it. So just stories like that in that vein. But Amazing Stories.
Amazing Stories. Okay.
Great.
So people, Amazing Stories. Just for the episode 2 called The Heat.
Yeah.
Right? The Heat. Automatically, hands down, makes the season great.
Yeah.
Amazing Stories originally came on NBC in the 80s. I remember Amazing Stories. Matter of fact, the music on Amazing Stories is on the Apple TV original. It uses the same music as the original Amazing Stories that came out in the early 80s, 81, 82. It was on NBC. And there's one amazing story that I remember from the it's a couple, but the one that I remember most is the one about World War II. And it's a bomber pilots in their plane, and somehow enemy fire takes out their landing gear. So the landing gear can't open. It's mangled, so they can't open. So the person that's underneath is a gunner in those, kind of like what you see in Star Wars on the Millennium Falcon. You have a gunner that's gunning, and that's kind of, they got that because Steven Spielberg was George Lucas was, and Steven Spielberg, but George Lucas was a World War II.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No, he wasn't a World War II soldier. He was a young guy who looked at what was happening in World War II, and Star Wars is kind of futuristic World War II.
And he did Red Tails, right? Okay.
So it's futuristic. So there's a gunner underneath, and if the plane lands, he'll get smashed. Oh. But he's a cartoonist. And so he draws the plane, and he draws these Acme. Anybody who knows Warner Brothers cartoons, Bugs Bunny and all that, they had the Acme Company. And the Acme Company, Bugs Bunny could go get a mallet and slam, someone over the head with it, and vice versa. All this would go on, right? So he draws these Acme cartoon wheels that look like Warner Brothers wheels, and he's got his eyes closed, and he's focusing on it, and this landing gear comes from out of nowhere, and the pilot and everything are looking like, I can't believe it, because they were going to have to sacrifice him and possibly sacrifice themselves, because it was going to be a skid, and he was going to be mangled within the gunner cage, right? So he's holding on, and he's dreaming. So the plane lands with these Acme wheels, and he's still there. So they get the welder to come over with his blowtorch, and they're opening up. He said, "Don't wake him, because if we wake him, this whole plane will probably collapse." So they cut him out of the steel, get him out, and when they get him away from the plane, he finally opens his eyes, and the whole plane collapses, crushing the cage. That's something that I just remember that, right? So Amazing Stories, the new version, the new adaptation, the new Amazing Stories, all original stories, and they put you in that framework and you remember it. And this one in particular called The Heat. When that came on, I had to reach out to the writers, because what's different from the original Amazing Stories is in the 80s it was all Caucasian. Didn't see anything. This one, Amazing Stories, is multicultural cast. Through all the episodes, you see America represented the way America is, right? And so it's amazing. It's just like the stories is amazing, but the heat in particular will have you in the use of a certain song. I used the same song in a film called The Shifter. But they use the song so uniquely, and it matches exactly what the scene is. Sometimes music is used to illustrate the scene while the actors are in silence, moving during their thing. And when if you don't get tears in your eyes at this one scene from The Heat, episode 2 of Amazing Stories. All the stories are good, but I can tell you, black written, black directed, The Heat is worth the whole price of admission of Amazing Stories just to watch that. So let's go through the cast real quick.
Let's see, The Heat cast.
Oh, there's a lot of African actors in this. So these names are like some names. So let's just say
this is good. Okay. Now I was making sure that I had the right cast because there's the same director.
That's right.
Directed she's directing
another writer.
Oh,
the
another
same writer did another episode. But once you see The Heat, then you'll want to see. The first episode, of course. But you will want to see it and go on and watch all the episodes. It's another. Go ahead.
Okay. So Haley Kilgore.
Okay.
Emery Crutchfield. Shane Paul McGee. Yvette Freeman. Sharice Balthy. Izan Alam. Dredd Carpenter. Deja D. Erica Marie Sanchez. Jeffrey Crutney. Jonathan Davis. Kaylin Gaynor, Paul Flanagan, Trayvon McIntyre, Floyd Banks, Tevin Griffin,
and the cast goes on. Right? So look, people. Amazing Stories.
Oh, and the rapper.
Okay.
Chukwudi Hodge.
See, Chukwudi Hodge, right? So look. Amazing Stories. Apple TV. It will be well worth the watch. The cinematography 10 on all the episodes. The use of CGI, special effects, and green screen. That's a 10. All of this is futuristic stuff that's going on. Sometimes it comes back to the past. Sometimes it goes to the future. You know what I'm saying? Space age pimping, right? So look, the character arc within these episodes, each episode, beautifully done, right? It gets you engrossed into the characters in each episode, and it keeps you watching. That's a 10, right? The world that the characters are in is fully fleshed out. You see it, they use it. They use a house, a club, or just the outdoors as a living, breathing character. Also, the people, the world. See, worlds have to be living and breathing too, to show you like there's winter leaves have fallen off the trees, strewn across the streets. As the camera pans up, it shows the Terminal Tower. It's a foggy day. You know, so this is how this is written, and this is how it plays out. And you can, when you watch it, you can see how it was written on the page. That's a 10, right? So, what would you rate Amazing Stories?
Was it the director or the writer? Because she had reached back out to you too.
That's right.
And
so many names.
But I would definitely give it a 10 because I love like the storylines. I love the various stories. It reminds me of like the Twilight Zone feel, like Tales from the Loop, right? Or like the television show Black Mirror, right? So I love shows like these, and what I loved about Amazing Stories, which is on Apple TV, right? I love after each episode, like gearing up, being excited about, okay, so what's the next story going to be about? Mm-hmm. What's the next adventure? Mm-hmm. I love it. It reminds me of those books when we were little. I used to love those books.
Well, you say
the adventure books.
When you choose your destiny,
right? Like
if you want to go if you want to go this way, right, turn to page 74. If you want to go over here, turn to page 24.
Like if you think the character should,
right,
go down the
dark alley.
The dark alley, you turn to this page, or if you think they should go back home, or I mean, it's kind of like that, like the excitement of. What's the adventure going to be? What's going to happen? What's the next storyline? So Amazing Stories was another great show. It was another great ride. Just like
keep you during this quarantine. Yes, during this quarantine. So Edward Kitsis is the developer and the director of the Heat. Black guy. Black dude, black guy is what white people say when they're saying it's a strange foreigner. Black guy, but black dude, right? And then, Chanaka Hodges is the writer. She writes on 2 different episodes of The Amazing Stories, and we actually corresponded because I told her how great The Heat was, and
she was the rapper in the episode of The Heat. She was also on there because when I was reading off, it said rapper. She was actually in the episode. You know how Spike Lee puts himself.
Okay, I just put in that.
Yeah, she was the rapper in that episode.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Right? So you give it a 10.
A 10.
All right. Yeah. So I give it a 10 also, people. So now,